That was actually a really good dog.
That's a really good...
That's specifically my friend's now dearly departed husky Rasputin.
Oh, I should have recognized.
Rasputin had a sort of, they're trying to have him not howl all the time, so he would compromise by doing this sort of thing they called ruing, which is him going.
That is very much husky. I want to sing, but I can't. I know it's not appropriate to fully
I must sing the song of my people, but the song of my people will get me back in the crate.
Pretty much.
Hello, and welcome to episode 127 of Rhythm Encounter, the RPG Fan Music Podcast. I am your host, Mike Salbato, and today we are talking about Music of the Year. But thankfully, I am not alone today. I am joined by three wonderful people. First off, we have Hilary here.
Hello.
Also with us is Mike Sollosi. We're borrowing him from Retro Encounter.
I think you meant to say two wonderful people and also Mike Sollosi.
No, I meant what I said.
Aw.
And Pat Gann is here as well.
Hey everybody, let's rock and roll.
I mean, if we're doing a big music episode, like, we gotta have Pat, right? So, yeah, I'm really excited about this. Obviously, we haven't done our written Music of the Year feature yet, but it's gonna happen at some point. But we wanted to get this out soon. And there was a lot of games in 2023. A lot of great games to play and a lot of solid music. So if you've listened to our show in the past, you know sometimes we have gone incredibly overboard with Music of the Year. As much as we enjoy a good 15-hour podcast on music, we're going to do a little less today. But because it's Music of the Year, we still bent our traditional rules a little bit. So everyone got to pick 3 songs today instead of 2.
Yay!
We're just going to try to rein in our commentary a little bit because we want to be able to get through like our 12 songs today, but not make you listen for hours and hours at a time.
I understand the like wanting to be brief, but I don't have a lot of faith in our ability to be brief.
I don't know. I mean, I am going to be brief on my commentary on all of your songs because my thought here was, I'm going to write out notes about why I picked mine. And I think that's what we all did. We should have like at least our own reasoning for our songs, but then I encouraged us all to be brief on everyone else's. And personally, what I decided for myself was all of my notes on all of your songs, I limited to 10 words. I was going to do 10 or less, but I ended up being exactly 10 on all of them.
You're already using way more than 10 words on your meta-narrative explanation before we even hear a single note of music.
I know, but I'll get there. Don't worry.
Oh, boy. Okay.
You don't have faith in me.
Not really.
Okay. Thank you.
No, this is going to be a 2.5 hour, very entertaining listen that I'm excited to take part in. But you like at the top saying we're going to try and make this quick. I'm just rolling my eyes real hard right now.
All right. So with me today are 2 wonderful people. And
exactly. Yep.
All right.
Maybe we start over from the beginning.
All right. Well, let's get into it then. We're going to start with Pat. Pat, you have 3 songs that you decided are your Music of the Year. So where are we going to start?
All right. Well, the 3 songs I picked, I pulled in one of the world map themes from Octopath Traveler 2. It's called Toto'haha. I picked a song from the indie darling visual novel that came out at the end of this year, Slay the Princess. The song is called The Apotheosis. And if you've ever listened to the Journey soundtrack, you'll remember that same song title existed on that soundtrack. And then last and certainly not least is a special new arrangement of the song Celestial by Ed Sheeran, which was used in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. The new arrangement is a remix by Toby Fox, composer and creator for Undertale, for the new end credits that runs after you complete the DLC, which that DLC Indigo Disc came out in December of last year. So it just barely made the cut.
All right. What a combo of musicians on that one. All right. Well, let's go listen to Pat's songs, and then we'll come back and talk about them.
are designed to love and break, to rinse and repeat it all again. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat it all again. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck when the world's too loud. Things don't look up when you're going down. Know your arms are reaching out from somewhere beyond the clouds. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck when I get stuck. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck, I get stuck. I see the light shining through the rain, 1,000 colors in a brighter shade. To rise from the lowest place, there's silver lining that surrounds the gray. When I get lost, will come back around. Things don't look up when you're going down. Know your arms, they are reaching out from somewhere beyond the clouds. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. When I get lost, when I get lost, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck, I get stuck. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Come back round, come back round. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck, I get stuck. Tonight it could go either way. Hearts balanced on a razor blade. We are designed to love and break, and to rinse and repeat it all again. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. When I get lost, when I get lost, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck, I get stuck. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Come back round, come back round. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck, I get stuck. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. When I get lost, when I get lost. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck, I get stuck. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. Come back round, come back round. Rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. I get stuck, I get stuck.
All right. Well, holy heck. Those were 3 fantastic songs, at least in my opinion.
I agree.
You guys enjoyed those?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, a little bit of a variety of tones in these 3.
Yep.
I wouldn't say you exactly have a type, Pat.
No, I didn't want to try to theme at all because there was just so much music this year and so many great games. It's like, I think part of me honestly would have just picked 3 songs from Octopath Traveler 2. So Toto'haha, despite being a funny name to say, is to me, it's one of the most powerful pieces of music in the game, and it's one of 3 forms of the same song, essentially. It's also the character theme for Ochette, the hunter, essentially. It's variations on the same theme. I think I talked about this when we did the spoiler cast episode with Zach and Alana earlier this year. But composer Yasunori Nishiki opted to, alongside most of the tracks being recorded in Tokyo, he had the opening theme, the character themes, and the initial world map music, which is they pair with the character themes, recorded at a studio in Nashville, Tennessee called Ocean Way, that I've actually been to, recorded in, and it's a pretty famous studio. If you know music that gets recorded in Nashville, it's pretty happening place, and they got an incredible set of musicians to do the recording. And when you listen to like the choir vocals that come in behind the instruments on Toto'haha, it's just it's very powerful. And you can notice, if you listen to the whole OST, you can notice a difference in like sort of the overall vibe of the recording. It feels a little more open. It doesn't feel like essentially what we would call session recordings, which is what happened with the Japanese ones. Almost certainly you give a click track and you bring in 1 or 2 musicians at a time, and they each record their own pieces. But Ocean Way, they were doing ensemble recordings, and so you get this like it's almost like you're in the space with them for a concert, but it doesn't have like the large concert hall echo or reverb either. It's like the perfect size of a room. And so I love all of the character themes and the early world map stuff. And I think among them, I gotta say Ochette's theme and Toto'haha, both day and night versions, are fantastic.
Okay. Breezy, nice percussion, cool whistling, great sense of adventure.
No doubt. I'm good on the percussion. The percussion is definitely true.
Yeah, the percussion sort of evokes island music a little bit, because I mean Toto'haha is a tropical island sort of in the middle of the Octopath Traveler 2 map. But I wouldn't say this is like a stereotypical island song.
Not at all.
And it really has a sense of it has a grandness to it that I mean, maybe a sense of traveling because that you would associate with a map theme, but it has notes in it that hints that this is maybe not a deciduous forest with castles and small villages. It's true to the character of Toto'haha and Ochette, but also a sort of a big world map theme, and not this is a tiny island world map theme.
I was just going to say, you definitely get a little bit of a sense of grandeur from it, which I appreciate.
Yeah, they didn't let the scale or the scope fall, and I think thinking about the music in the context of the game, which you were talking about, Sollosi, is very important. I think Yasunori Nishiki does an incredible job with that over and over and over. I've recently been digging into the Champions of the Continent soundtracks for the mobile game, and a lot of that is just rearrangements from the first game, which I'm like, yawn, sigh. But the original stuff he's been doing for that also really helps to flesh out some of the new areas that they're doing in that game. And so I just think whatever he puts his mind to, like, he makes something really special. And I think Toto'haha isn't like, it's the island theme, but it's not like this cute little novelty thing. Like, it's memorable, it's powerful.
Yeah, the Octopath games, I mean, the first one had a map shaped like a pizza, with each slice being a different biome. Right. While in Octopath Traveler 2, it's still 8 distinct biomes, but they're arranged a little bit more in more geographic sense. But Nishiki's soundtrack really contributes to the character and tone of each of the settings that make up Octopath Traveler 2. I think Nishiki is an indispensable part of the series. I say series, although it's only 2 games, but why Octopath 2 is so excellent and the world feels so distinct is the soundtrack. I love both of the Octopath Traveler soundtracks, and I think that the second game is maybe even outdid the first.
He's in it now. He's tied with the series for sure.
Yeah, he definitely is, and I do think in every way the sequel's an improvement. Anyone who had a chance to look at that top 25 of all time thing that I did, there was only one soundtrack from 2023 on that list, and it was this one. And this is easily my soundtrack of the year. It's probably also my game of the year. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, probably. I really love this game. I love HD 2D, and of course, I love the music, and love the stories, love the characters. All right, let's move up. Slay the Princess. Wow, what a wild game this is. The soundtrack is definitely, in some ways, not as impressive. In some ways, it's more functional than anything. I know in the game review that we have up, this phrase was used that the voice acting was the star of the show in terms of the audio, not the music. And I agree with that sentiment. But Brandon Boone, who is a composer that's generally new to games, has done a lot of composition for other media, but is new to game music. He did the soundtrack that's essentially many variations on the same theme. There's a couple of other distinct melodic themes, but across 50 tracks, it's really like 30 of those are variations on one theme, which is the princess's theme. And Apotheosis is one of those. And if you play the game, you know why that is. But this term Apotheosis is kind of like the concept of like the introduction of divinity or the birth of a god. And I think when people, if you said game music plus Apotheosis, you're going to hear the Journey soundtrack. And that's that song near the end when you're climbing the mountain. It's sort of the climax of that game. And Apotheosis is one of the many songs featuring Amelia Jones, the vocalist who first gained notoriety in game music by recording on the Hollow Knight soundtrack. And she's on maybe a dozen tracks for Slay the Princess. And her vocals here are just really awesome. This is one of the sort of more powerful themes from the soundtrack. There's percussion here, whereas there's really not a lot in the way of drums in a lot of the rest of the soundtrack. In the context of the game, which this isn't an ending sequence, it's sort of one of the ending chapter sequences, and it's kind of hard to find. Like, it's a very easy miss. It's kind of a shame that you have to really know what you're doing, because it's semi-buried, but the moment in the game where this occurs is freaking awesome, and everyone should play this game. So when you hear this song, you'll be like, oh yeah, like it adds a layer of depth to it if you know what's happening in the game at that point.
I was definitely, I think, struck most by the vocals, for sure, in this one. And I remember reading the review, actually, and what you'd said about the soundtrack, and definitely found myself agreeing in that it does create an atmosphere, but I think this track sort of shows that even if that's what you're going for, you can still have these really powerful moments.
Yeah, and I do appreciate, I'm breaking my 10-word rule because I'm not contributing enough. I'll still read my 10-word thing, but I definitely appreciate a song that can be used like in only very, very specific circumstances, and it's like kind of hidden, so that's kind of cool that that's part of it. And I didn't know about the Hollow Knight connection on the vocalist, but that would explain it, because I really like the vocals on this one.
Most of the Hollow Knight vocals I'm familiar with are Hornet going "Sha." But yeah, I have not played Slay the Princess, but after I read a little bit about it and heard the fellas talk about it on Random Encounter some weeks or months ago, I immediately wishlisted it, because this is a real weird, dark, subversive narrative game that is kind of more effed up than you think going in, probably. And they're subverting fairy tale ideas into a true horror adventure game. And this track really does feel like the opening notes to a classic horror movie. Like this is it's sinister, but also but also has, you know, some energy to it. Like, you know, like, I don't think this would be out of place in like a Tim Burton soundtrack, or I should say a Danny Elfman soundtrack.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
That's actually really astute, and I think that's right on. Yeah, the horror element to the game is very interesting in the way it all plays out. There's definitely, it's not just dark, but I think in some ways, if you really, you know, get deep into it, like I think there's a fair bit that you could argue is controversial about it. But yeah, it's just a powerful game, and I think the soundtrack fits it very well. If anyone wants sort of a tour of what I mean about variation on the theme, by the way, and the album's free to stream on a variety of services. There's this song called The Shifting Mound, and it's parts 1 through 5. It's actually the name of a character, but those are all featuring Amelia Jones, and they build over time. And if you just listen to those 5 in a row from start to finish, you'll get a real good sense of what's going on with the soundtrack. And Apotheosis actually, it's the same bass melody and definitely fits.
I was going to say there's a direct connection between that series and this one, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, again, it's almost all of it is you just listen to the track 2 of the album, which is just called The Princess. It's that melody. It's incredibly simple and it's incredibly effective. I think people who do variation on a theme very well are worthy of praise. You know, Hamauzu did it with the main theme of Saga Frontier 2. He probably put that in 15 places, and the soundtrack was better off for it. So, yeah, I've spoken briefly with the composer, Brandon Boone, and I can't say too much, but they're working on like an extended version called the Pristine Cut in 2024. And there is going to be additional music and new versions or arrangements. And I can't say anything more, but if you like the Apotheosis, you're going to want to keep following this game to see what happens, because there's something very cool on the horizon.
Oh, nice. Yeah, actually,
Right.
that's a good point. That's a good time, actually, quickly to mention that in our show notes for the episode, we have links to all kinds of things. I actually did the links already for this one. And Slay the Princess, you can actually listen to the whole thing on YouTube. And we have links in our show notes. So check that out.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. So the last one I picked, I explained what it is. It's a remix to this, you know, acoustic pop song that Ed Sheeran made for Scarlet and Violet back at the end of 22, which I was super psyched about at the time. I still think it's a great song, but though it might not be as sort of earworm catchy, enjoyable, I think I ultimately like this Toby Fox remix more. And for me, that has everything to do with the way Fox reordered the basically Ed Sheeran singing parts. So a reordering of the lyrics and the performance. The entire chorus of Celestial, as Ed Sheeran wrote it, got cut. You can't find it anywhere in this remix. Instead, Fox builds his own chorus out of parts of the first verse and pre-chorus of other verses.
I have not done the homework into this, but are you implying that Toby Fox heard the lyric rinse and repeat, and then rinsed and repeated it several times in a new chorus?
Yes.
Yeah, and I don't know what's going to go up first between this and my review of the Indigo Disc DLC, but I have a working theory that might be a little controversial about why Fox chose that lyric as his new substitute chorus.
Is it a meta commentary on how Pokemon has not evolved as a game concept in the intervening almost 30 years?
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sounds.
Yeah. I wonder if the thing here was Toby Fox being subversive, because, you know, Sheeran's song Celestial was this sort of song about life is hard. Life has this sort of rinse and repeat, getting stuck, getting lost vibe to it. But sometimes something breaks through and it's magical. And if you watch the music video for it, it's basically like all these Gen 1 Pokemon in their old original design that like run around London with Ed Sheeran, and life is great now. And I feel like this version by Toby Fox is more like wait, which part of life is boring again? And that's a dark thing to put at the end of the DLC for the 9th gen game. I could be totally wrong, but this is the vibe I got from it. And it's weird because I still really like Scarlet and Violet, even with all of its flaws. But I also thought there was just something very, just sort of very, I don't want to say cynical, but very like dark and subversive about what Fox did with this arrangement. And I mean, clearly Toby Fox is still a fan of the series. He has contributed original compositions to Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet.
He did the Battle Tower music in Sword Shield, and it's a bop.
Yeah, and the stuff, we're not confirmed on everything he did for Scarlet and Violet yet. We'll know in February when 3 whole soundtracks are being printed. On February 27th, they're finally Sword and Shield will be published. Legends Arceus will be published, and Scarlet and Violet will be published. And that's a total of 14 discs of Pokemon music, and yes, I've already pre-ordered it.
Of course you have.
I'm super, like, I haven't been collecting much, but I've really liked these recent games. However, I think there is a problem with what this series is going through. And so I could be reading into what Toby Fox did with this arrangement, but I don't know. I think, the guy who created Undertale, kind of in the spirit of both sort of like Earthbound and also like his, designs of all those enemies feeling very like heartful and like very Gen 1 Pokemon, and like it's pretty well known that Junichi Masuda, the creator of Pokemon, and Toby Fox like have a very friendly working relationship because game recognized game. They have something similar going on there as sort of like one-man studios, at least back in the day. The original Pokemon was maybe more than 10 people, and same with
really?
Undertale. So it's there's this sort of kindred spirit thing going on there, and I wonder if Fox looks at all the stuff going on in modern Pokemon and goes, "Oh, they're missing the point," and then you sing, rinse, and repeat. I get lost. I get stuck. Like, what the heck? Like, that's, I don't know. And it's a great arrangement to listen to. I've listened to it like 100 times. I rinse and repeat that one in my playlist.
Well, I think that view of Pokemon is a commonly held one, at least among older fans, and the 4 of us are in our late 30s or early 40s. And
that's a good point.
and basically, once you've played several Pokemon games, you really feel the patterns, and you see how little the series has evolved in some aspects. But it's very easy to take a cynical view, but it's also still like one of the best-selling and biggest money-making franchises in any medium in history. So it's like it's still so popular and still sells so well, in spite of its lack of innovation. And that's very frustrating to fans that want innovation or that love Pokemon and wish Pokemon could be something more than what it currently is. And I actually like Scarlet and Violet more than most Pokemon fans. I think it's my favorite generation of Pokemon games since the DS. But it also has so many technical shortcomings and is extremely similar to previous games in some ways that are frustrating, even though I think it has really good character work, really good soundtrack, good open world ideas that they didn't fully execute on. But I think this arrangement is lovely. But I also I'm curious as to how deliberate or how subversive Fox wants to be with this arrangement.
Yeah, and we may never know. But
Right.
it's if it is, then it was a wild thing for him to do it.
And it's fun to speculate on that, on top of the fact that, from what I could tell, like kind of looking at the reception to the song, which I did a little bit, like the general opinion seems to be that it like uses the themes from the DLC and the base game well. It works them in well, and it's this version, like a lot of people were saying, it feels applicable to certain events and certain characters in the DLC. So if all that's being accomplished at once, that's extremely, extremely impressive.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, I think so, and I would definitely refer people to Nikki's review of Teal Mask and my review of Indigo Disc, the main characters of the DLC, Kieran and Carmine, who are sisters.
Karen's a boy and Carmine's the older sister.
Yep. Yeah, they are. I can definitely see like the commentary that you were running into, Hilary, about some of the theming to this remix song, how that would apply to their relationship to each other, their relationship to Pokemon, their relationship to you as the protagonist. That makes a lot of sense too. I like that.
Yeah, it's so much fun to delve into it and think about all of this.
Yeah, this commentary did not go where I thought it was going to go. It's been interesting.
Yeah. Well, Mike, how are you feeling about telling us about your 3? Because I think you got some good ones, right?
Yeah.
I think so.
I think so too.
I think so 4.
I really didn't want to like repeat myself too much from the last episode, but I have my reasons, but I'll get into them. So my 3 songs from Music of the Year are dedicated to Moonlight from Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, the world map theme from Meg's Monster, and the Colgera battle, at least some parts of the Colgera battle from The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. So that's all I'm saying for now. Let's go listen and we'll talk about them after. right, so dedicated to Moonlight. There's a new piano and band arrangement album for Endwalker that I just got a couple weeks ago, and it has two new versions of this song on there. There's a piano version and a band version, and they're a lot of fun. And I enjoy hearing them, the piano version, the band, and I recommend checking them out. But the original one is still my favorite. Just the energy and the vibe of this one, and the way it's used in the game in one of the Alliance raid battles, it's just so much fun. The whole series in Endwalker has been great. I don't think I consider it my favorite Alliance raid in the series, because we do have like some Ivalice and the Nier things, but some awesome music. So this is the song for the last fight in the second tier of the raids. This is when you're spoilers, I guess. This is when you're fighting Menfina, and when this one came out, I recall some of the commentary about it. Like, some people didn't like this quite as much as In the Balance, and we're not here today to talk about which of those is better. I would have a hard time choosing which is better, but you know what this one has that In the Balance doesn't have is that fiddle. It is a fiddle, right? We've determined it's a fiddle. Okay, good. I love that. Like I said, the energy and the feeling of the song I love in general, but when that fiddle kicks in, a few times during the song, it just takes it to a new place, and I just love it. I almost even wrote down that I get chills, but that felt a little too on the nose given all the ice attacks being thrown at you in this fight. But yeah, fiddle, give me that fiddle. I don't know. I've listened to this one so much since it came out, so it was kind of an easy choice to bring on here.
I had a lot of fun with this song too. And I just want to really quickly share a thought. This took me straight back to my high school anime watching days.
Really?
Yeah, because that melody and that kind of type of lyrical content followed by those sudden fiddle intervention kind of reminded me of a couple songs that Yoko Kanno did. I think it's the opening to Escaflowne that I'm thinking of. Okay. It's not fiddles, but it's bagpipes, and they're suddenly there, and you're confused, but it works.
Oh, I gotta hear that now. Okay.
But that, and then I think there's an original track of hers, Moon, where she does a similar thing where it's just kind of a sudden split, and there's a new instrument, and it's introduced without any much of a transition at all, but it still kind of works. So I don't know. I enjoyed it. It was very nostalgic for me.
I had no idea.
Give me that fiddle. I think that's the big takeaway here. Though I'm also interested. I haven't had a chance to listen to the new Primals and Keiko Arrange album. I'm very interested in the piano version, especially. I think Keiko does such a good job. So I'd like to see what happens when you strip back all of it to just one instrument. But yeah, this original version is certainly good. It's catchy and fun. And yeah, when that fiddle comes in, give me that fiddle.
Yeah. I will actually, I want to do a quick mention to yes, the piano version is good. And just so you know, the band version is, the Primals are singing it. So it's a completely different vocal experience, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I figured it would be a very different sound with the Primals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I love this song. I think that there's always multiple bangers every single time there's a new raid series in Final Fantasy XIV. But they're always. I feel like Soken's always trying to surprise us a little bit. Mm-hmm. I mean, no, everyone is a little shocked at what the next raid thing is, because there's always something that is just so unexpected in either tone or content or sound. And I mean, did anyone really think I mean, this is basically a pop song, but also has this really aggressive percussion and I guess a bridge that's really beautiful. It's somehow intense and foreboding, but also so pleasant at the same time. And we have had that sort of soundscape before in raids. I I think the Titania raid in Shadowbringers is a little bit like that.
I was just about to mention that one.
Yeah, very
and,
different from what you expect. Mhm.
Yeah, and the Shiva phase of the Shiva battle from the Eden raid is a little like that, but I mean that's only the sort of female pop vocals behind a track with a lot of darkness in it kind of concept. I'm not saying that any of those are close to the same song. Whatever. I mean, it's Final Fantasy XIV music. It's excellent. Soken shows up later in this episode. Yeah, not much else to say here.
To be excellent again, yeah.
It's always the raids. I feel like with the really surprising stuff musically, but
It really can be, yeah. Uh-huh.
I
like Pleasant.
Because the raids are disparate from the main plot. Like you can play through the entire story of Final Fantasy XIV and not do a single 8-person raid or alliance raid. I think other than Crystal Tower, which is now mandatory.
Right.
So I think they use those raids as an opportunity to get a little weird.
Mhm.
Like there's that's where the bosses that you have to do algebra are. And the ones where the soundtrack are like experimental pop and electronica songs that maybe they'll be a little bit more buttoned up for the main story and get real messed up during the raids in terms of design and composing.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, because if you compare the first tier of the current raids, in the balance, like I mentioned, that one to this one, like very, very different feel, which you don't get anywhere else in the game. And then, that's to say nothing about the Nier raids and Shadowbringers, where they're like, hey, what if we took some people's favorite Nier songs and like blended them with classic Final Fantasy themes? And it's just, oh my God, some of the best music in that game. All right. So I have something very different in the middle of my two songs here. So I have not played Meg's Monster yet, but I am very fascinated by it. I was writing out my notes, and I actually wrote a way too much of a short story about the composer here, Ryo Uratani, their past work. But the short version is that he was with Capcom for a long time, and from 2009 to 2019, almost exclusively worked on Monster Hunter. And actually, I just learned earlier today, also was going to be a composer on Mega Man Legends 3. I know. Had no idea. So I'm not sure exactly when he left Capcom, but since then he's credited with doing composing and arranging on some of the Atelier games, Final Fantasy Record Keeper, and 5 of the 6 Final Fantasy Pixel Remaster games. Because I know there were a lot of people doing arrangements on that, and I didn't know that. So
yeah, real quick, that was the only reason I recognized the name, because I'm not familiar with Monster Hunter much at all. So when I saw Ryo Uratani, I was like, yeah, these are one of the Pixel Remaster.
All right, go get a snack and a drink, children, because this is going to take a while. All right. The Monster Hunter games are almost always composed by committee. Capcom does that a lot in general. Like even Street Fighter 2, which is usually attributed to Yoko Shimomura. Shimomura only wrote about 60% of the tracks in Street Fighter 2 because, again, Capcom will always have multiple composers on every game. And so every Monster Hunter game has between, 3 and 7 composers on it. But Uratani was on almost all of them from, the middle of the PSP era through to, I think, the end of the 3DS era. And then he left Capcom and went freelance, but still contributed some tracks and is credited on Monster Hunter games in the 2020s. I think it's not just because they used arrangements of his older songs. I think he joined or was hired as a freelancer to contribute
contract
a little bit.
Freelance work. Yeah,
nice.
But he was in the Capcom stable of composers for many years and worked on a ton of Monster Hunter games, including some. I mean, I'm just looking at the track list here. Some of these are tracks I know all too well. He did 2 of the town themes in the last PSP Monster Hunter game. And I don't want to think about how many hours I've spent in that town. But
that's an important one.
Yeah, but the but this track is really good. It's it does feel like a Monster Hunter town theme in a way, because in Monster Hunter games they almost always want the town to be as serene as possible. and then the hunting grounds themselves to be as harsh and dangerous as possible. So the towns have to feel very safe. And I mean, this with the cascading piano notes, and that might also be harp or similar. I don't know. This song feels like a babbling brook and a small running waterfall.
Oh yeah, like with like wind chimes on someone's porch or something.
Yeah.
So no, it's really peaceful. I enjoy it. So I listened to some other songs, and I think you might be onto something there too, because some of the non-town themes, there are some more. The idea is like you're surrounded by there's monsters everywhere, and I haven't played it, but I know the basic premise of like you're this monster like protecting this little girl, right? So I'm sure there's some foreboding stuff. I'm sure there's some emotional stuff given the look of the game, but I enjoyed this one a lot.
Yeah, seeing Meg's Monster in here, I was before listening expecting more Tim Burton.
Tim Burton again.
Between that and Slay the Princess.
Yeah.
And was pleasantly surprised because this was very relaxed.
Yeah. So it's one of those ones that's a little hard to easily listen to. Like I looked on YouTube and other places. It's even on Bandcamp, but it's one of the rare soundtracks on Bandcamp you can't preview. But there is a cool website. I think I'll put a link in the notes. Like there is a cool like website for the soundtrack that's kind of like set up like a map of the game. But
I like that. That's
yeah,
clever.
I want to play the game though. This was a good reminder that it was one of the ones I missed recently, so I want to check it out. All right, and one of the reasons I missed some games in 2023 was because I was playing some Zelda game. Yeah, like I said, even though I brought a Zelda game and 14 in the last episode, I figured this is music of the year, and I don't think I could get away with logging 275 hours into Tears of the Kingdom and then not featuring it on this episode. So, Colgera is my favorite boss in the game, only eclipsed by the final battle, or the final series of battles. And just the whole atmosphere of fighting this like frozen serpent thing in the middle of these icy winds, thousands of feet up in the sky. And it's a thrill, really. And I think without the music it would be, but there's this song, and we're using a game rip here, so it's like what we're hearing in the episode is like different segments of the song. Not really, you don't actually hear it straight through in the game, I think, but oh my gosh, it's so exciting. You'll hear just the flute or the wind instrument, whatever that is really the star, and then there's a section later on, like when the music ramps up, and it sort of has this orchestral sound. And just for the heck of it, there's some notes from Dragon Roost Island, which I did not pick up on until someone pointed it out. But
well, Dragon Roost Island is the location of the of the Wind Shrine or Wind Temple, right? In Wind Waker.
Oh, I think so. It's been so long since I played Wind Waker.
Yeah, because Wind Waker has the Wind Temple and the Earth Temple, and this is the boss of the Tears of the Kingdom Wind Temple.
Yeah.
Am I mistaken? I could be.
No,
wrong.
you're right. That would explain that being in the song, but it's so cool. I love the way it's just in there. I wouldn't say it's an Easter egg, but it's just kind of like woven into the song. And then there's what?
That just makes me think of Link like humming all his old themes while cooking.
Oh,
it's
yes.
just a nice little throwback.
Yeah, that one's fun too. But
and very relevant in this case.
Mm-hmm. And there's places, there's some places in the depths when you're playing where you can refight the different temple bosses. And whenever I'm running through there, if I come across this one, I will fight it again because it's fun. I get to hear the music again, even though you're underground, not up in the sky. But I enjoy it so much.
Okay, I was mistaken. The Wind Temple is not on Dragon Roost Island, but Dragon Roost Island is where the Rito people live, and they're associated with.
Oh yeah, that's their
the
quest.
Wind. Yeah, they're associated with the Wind Temple or in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I was just correcting myself for all the Zelda fans in the audience, furious at me for getting the detail wrong. But I mean, I hate to bring this to Monster Hunter again, but this feels like the opposite kind of Monster Hunter track than the previous one song was. This is you're fighting an epic duel against a monster many times larger than you. And I have not played this boss fight, but I'm going to make some assumptions here. Like dodging tornadoes many times your size, perhaps running up its body or running up debris that it casts around to get a good hit in, and with parts of the soundtrack sort of matching the epic scale of the leaping and dodging and sword swinging Link is doing.
Yes.
Okay.
Not all of that. Some of that is very on the nose, but it's at least in the spirit of the fight. Yes, for sure.
I did play a bit of Tears of the Kingdom, but I was just so like always just doing the next thing I saw in front of me that I didn't even reach any of the temples, and still played it for about 8 or 10 hours. But I mean that game is so broad, and it's exciting that that there are 4 or more battles of this level to be found eventually.
Yeah.
I think the Monster Hunter comparison is a little bit apt, just because the boss fight music in these more recent Zelda games really, they may have taken a lesson from games like Monster Hunter or something like that, because it's very dynamic music. Like, it will change based on what's happening and where you are. Yeah.
Yeah, it does, especially when most of the games have like this very like subtle atmospheric sound to it, but they went like really, really hard on the battle and boss themes.
So, Mike, this is telling me that you're interested in maybe playing a Monster Hunter game if you're following Uratani's career and making Monster Hunter comparisons to Breath of the Wild.
Apparently,
and you like playing games for hundreds of hours.
That's true.
Yeah. All right, excellent. Well, all three games are in the mail.
I even voted for Monster Hunter in a recent Retro Encounter poll, even though it didn't win.
I'm going to say, I haven't gotten to this part of Tears of the Kingdom. I very recently booted it up, and I am obviously nowhere near the super cool stuff like this. But as you described the fight, icy, windy, way up high in the sky, and then what I noticed when we were listening to it as a game rip, and hopefully Nintendo will publish the soundtrack at some point, is when you get dynamic layers of music, which I'm sure Monster Hunter does as well. For my money, one of the first games to do that sort of thing and do it well in the context of fighting things that are significantly bigger than you, and maybe doing it while not having any ground below you, would be in certain fights in Shadow of the Colossus.
Oh, yeah.
I saw where you were going.
When I was listening to the song, one of my first thoughts was, oh, yeah, this kind of reminds me of a really good Shadow of the Colossus battle theme. And now they share battle themes, but there are a few distinct musical cuts that they use as well. And one of them is the first flying one. It's like this, if you remember the game from 2005, it's like this lake, and then this bird comes down. You have to jump on the wing.
Oh, God.
Yeah. And I could just totally hear that, especially after you described the fight. So, yeah, Monster Hunter, but also like early concept of doing dynamic layering with your battle music and contextualizing it around what's happening in the fight, what sort of stage or focus you're in, with probably like a multi-layered battle / puzzle of a fight. Makes me really want to make some heavy progress in this game ASAP. That's what I'll say most of all. When I listened to this, I was like, oh yeah, I need to play this game.
Well, I encourage that. Oh no. Okay. So now between Uratani and Tears of the Kingdom, and now that you made the comparison to Shadow of the Colossus, a game I love, I guess I do need to try Monster Hunter, don't I?
Yep, just set aside around 400 hours in 2024 for each of the games you try, of course.
Right.
And you'll be good to go by 2031.
Cool. All right, I guess I'll just put down this Like a Dragon game then.
Ooh.
No. You can play that one too.
Do them all, Mike. Do them all.
Yeah. Okay. So we've come to the middle of our episode, and we actually have 2 bonus songs in this episode, which I'm really happy about. So I thought it'd be fun to get some bonus music from our 2 founding members of Rhythm Encounter. So in the middle here, we're doing one bonus track from Stephen Meyerink. And Pat, I'm sure you'll be happy about this, but Stephen wanted us to play Normal Battle 1 from Octopath Traveler 2.
I'm very happy with his choice. Great minds think alike.
So, so we're going to just cut over to that and listen to that, and then we'll come back and Sollosi and Hilary can share their songs after. So for our little intermission here, let's go listen to Normal Battle 1 from Octopath Traveler 2. All right. Well, thank you for contributing that song, Stephen. Between you and Pat, it definitely just reminds me to go and play Octopath Traveler when I'm done playing all the Monster Hunter games.
Strong showing for this game for music of the year.
Oh,
Strong
yeah.
endorsement.
It definitely belongs here. So I'm happy that we end up having two of them. So
The only reason I didn't bring one was because I was 100% certain Pat would.
Yep.
I'm really excited about your picks, though. So
I know there's such a diverse array there. I'm really excited.
So what are we doing here, Sollosi?
All right. Well, these are three of the games I spent among the most time with in 2023. And I mean, if you listen to me on podcasts or follow me on social media, you definitely heard me talk about all three of these at some time or another. The three songs are first from Dave the Diver, Preserved Realm by D'Antoni Wooten. Second from Final Fantasy XVI, Ascension by Masayoshi Soken. And lastly, from Street Fighter VI, Mr. Top Player, composed by Shigeyuki Kameda.
I know we're slightly bending the rules, bringing on Street Fighter, but it has that one mode, right?
Well, yes, and believe you me, I am going to talk about it.
Good.
Awesome. All right, let's go take a listen and then talk about them.
Yeah, that's my selection of 2023 tracks that I brought to play today, and I would say that they're all fairly different in vibe. But the irony is, all the three of these are basically battle tracks. Like Preserved Realm is a very serene song, and it takes place in sort of a cold water area of Dave the Diver. But you can definitely get impaled by a narwhal or attacked by a shark in this very, very chill area of the game. But that's sort of what Dave the Diver is. It's the music is almost entirely serene, except for some things like boss fight music. And when you're diving into the water, which is sort of like a semi-roguelike, semi-evolving game space, like it's really, really relaxing until it suddenly isn't.
Yeah, there's a marlin trying in your face. Or...
Yeah, if there's a sailfish trying to impale you, or any variety of sharks or exploding jellyfish.
Or my favorite, I suddenly have to box a barracuda.
Yeah, or like you're trying to catch a cuttlefish and you miss, so it inks you
yes!
and runs away, so the screen's obscured and you didn't see that tiger shark over there, and that's only like the first zone of the game. but Dave the Diver is great. It's a semi-roguelike, semi-business sim with RPG elements. Released by Mint Rocket, a Korean studio run by Nexon over the summer. But then got more popular with the Switch version, released in I think October, maybe November. It's a really, really fun game, but the music in it is so relaxing, and because I think they wanted to convey like the sort of beauty of the ocean and of scuba diving and of just seeing the life teeming around you, but also communicate how dangerous a lot of that is, because even though the music is almost always very, very low, like very, very low feeling, the action can get quite intense in Dave the Diver.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's just like, oh, I gotta upgrade my spear gun and try to get steel nets, and tuna party is happening in 2 days, so I gotta get as many of these bluefin tuna as I can without destroying them, so I can get more meat per tuna.
Yeah.
Like it's a very, very fun gameplay loop, but the music for it is almost always chill. Like even like the when you're sitting on your boat preparing for your dive, the music that plays is like almost seems statically, like it's coming through an old radio.
Yeah, it's this old-timey kind of like easy listening almost, sort of.
Yeah. A lot of Dave the Diver's music is easy listening, but the action taking place is anything but. And I think that's something very, very fun about it. And I don't usually a roguelike is a game that I would often be a podcast game. It's like I'll throw on a podcast while I'm playing the game. But Dave the Diver's soundtrack, even though it's a kind of game that is well suited to listening to a podcast, I usually didn't, because the music itself and also the audio of everything happening around you is I think an indelible part of the experience.
Yeah, and it's a good reminder that between close calls, you can always return to the beauty and the majesty around you. Also, I love all the music that has to do with Bancho.
Bancho is one of my favorite side characters of the year. I nominated him for RPG Fans Awards, but I don't. He probably didn't get a single vote when you have like Sid and Jill and Torgal around. But and all the Baldur's Gate 3 weirdos. But
we'll get to them.
Hilary, have you gotten to the part with the vegetable rap song?
No.
Oh boy. Continue those continue the special guest subplots.
Okay, good, because I love those.
I thought about bringing that on for the podcast, but it was not really the even though it's a delightful song, it's not. It didn't sort of create the mood I wanted for my choices for this episode.
That's fair.
But now, to swing to a wildly different mood. Unless Patrick or Mike want to dive to Dave a little bit.
I haven't played the game yet. I have been very interested in it, and now having heard you describe that there is an ice area, which all good games have, and very much enjoying listening to this music. I think I need to play this game. Plus, I love roguelikes.
Yeah.
You will not be disappointed.
At least check out the demo. Like, that's what I did at first, and I was like, oh, I could see myself spending a lot of time on this. But now I
Yeah.
just now I'm just enjoying it through Hilary, so it saves me some time. But
Okay.
it's really cool. I like it a lot.
All right. Well, now we're gonna do a little bit of a different sounding game for a different type of game. Final Fantasy 16 Ascension. This is, I believe, stage 4 or stage 5 of the Bahamut boss battle fight. Okay, spoiler alert: you fight Bahamut. That shouldn't be a spoiler, but I guess it is. I apologize.
Not shocking for a Final Fantasy, but
Yeah.
Especially not for this one. No,
Yeah, no kidding.
You're
So,
good.
since because a lot of Final Fantasy 16's plot points are giant kaiju battles between traditional Final Fantasy summons. I think every boss fight in the game is a classic Final Fantasy summon. I mean, Garuda's maybe the least common one. All right, actually, well, there are 2 boss fights against monsters related to the final boss, let's say, but we're not talking about that. The Bahamut boss fight is incredibly epic. It starts out like you're battling far above a city in ruins. You transform into different versions of the monster you control. You take the battle to the skies, then you take the battle into outer space, and there's explosions and fire. And every boss fight in Final Fantasy 16 feels like it's outdoing the previous one. Even though there's one late boss fight I don't love as much as the others, but for the most part, Final Fantasy 16's big encounters are about spectacle and escalation and just being as epic as possible while having every punch and every fireball just feel like it has amazing impact. And basically all the boss fights are in multiple stages. Ascension is one of the last stages of the Bahamut boss fight, because Soken, more so here than in any boss fight in, say, Final Fantasy 14, specifically chunks all of the tracks so that they match the action sort of note for note in cutscenes, and then transition smoothly into a more loopable version of the song so the battle can continue. And I think how many discs does the FF16 soundtrack have? Is it something like 7?
It's 7, and there's a bonus 8 disc with the limited edition. But yeah,
Right.
It's 7 discs. Yeah,
And that's because there's many reasons why it's so elaborate, but one of them is every major encounter of the game has not just a battle track; it has like 5 battle tracks and the transition tracks between them, because basically FF16 has almost unparalleled fight choreography. And even if you're just in a quick time event where Ifrit's fireball and Bahamut's fireball are meeting, and you have to mash the square button to overpower Bahamut's fire, it feels incredible. Sometimes you feel like you're playing a Devil May Cry or an Asura's Wrath game in Final Fantasy 16, and I say that as a high compliment. And just Ascension, this track specifically, feels somehow solemn and epic at the same time, but then it just keeps building and building and building. It's a very dramatic song to match a dramatic boss fight, and I really just remember the excitement and the excitement of every big boss fight in Final Fantasy 16 so fondly. And Bahamut is one of the best ones.
Yeah, my reaction to this, I basically, on some subconscious level, recalled all the awesome feeling Final Fantasy boss fights that I have previously done. But with what you said, with the incredible timing and choreography, I've seen a limited amount of that with the amount of 16 I've played. But it's incredible, just the way those sequences have been built and exquisitely timed. So I think that's a very strong argument for the 16 soundtrack as, soundtrack of the year, which it did win at the Game Awards.
Oh, it did.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
And that was a pretty big deal, especially because they tend to, in my opinion, if you look at the past years, they tend to overlook the Japanese contenders. And
in 2022, I think God of War Ragnarok won over Xenoblade Chronicles 3,
which is insane.
Which I don't agree with. I might be biased towards Japanese RPGs just because of who I am, but it made me wonder, like, did they really listen to both soundtracks? Because I feel like that can't be true.
Yeah, and Ragnarok is a good soundtrack. Of course, it's well made, but Xenoblade 3 was like stupidly good.
No, I like that. I really enjoy like this, and it's kind of a loose thing to compare it to the Zelda thing or any other game with like dynamic or changing music. But I really like that, even though I'm sure it's makes it hard to like build soundtracks sometimes when you have songs that like adapt to what's happening in the game. But I like whenever games do that. Actually, like the day before we recorded this, they released a new trailer for Visions of Mana, who said they're going to do a similar thing with the soundtrack, which is exciting.
Also, the day before we recorded this, they released the first trailer for the third DLC character, Street Fighter 6.
Oh.
And you didn't set me up for a good transition in one way, but you mentioned dynamic music. I've actually ordered these 3 in order of least dynamic to most dynamic, because
cool.
Street Fighter 6's entire soundtrack will change depending on what round you're in, and whether you or your opponent has low health, and also set up intro and sort of exiting tunes as you play. I don't have it broken down in front of me exactly, but I think the round 1 music is around 80 seconds, and the round 2 and 3 music are around 40 seconds each. And the part towards the end of Mr. Top Player where you hear a lot of low saxophone is what it switches to when the character on I believe it's the left side character's health gets critical, which is below 20%, and basically they'll switch phrases, and because there's sort of more energy between each phrase, the round 2 theme for Jamie's music is brings in a lot more horns, and round 3 continues with the horns, but then adds the like hi-hat to make it sort of seem jazzier and bigger than the previous tracks, or I say previous moments in the same track. So, and every single stage and every single character have their own unique theme that is dynamic like that. So, Street Fighter's 6's soundtrack is out. It's over 100 tracks. It's completely insane. But the 30 or 35 or so stage and character themes are all dynamically organized like that, which is sometimes great. And I think in game it's better than listening to it in a vacuum like we are now. But also had a lot of people complain because this is less listenable than a normal fighting game soundtrack. Like, I mean, Street Fighter V had a great soundtrack. It was a lot of new arrangements of classic Street Fighter songs, including some like dating all the way back to Street Fighter II, and a lot of different genres represented as well. While Street Fighter VI is intended to be more dynamic and more appropriate to the action, while Street Fighter V is just a bunch of catchy bangers. This is one of the Jamie's theme, Mr. Top Player, is one of the catchiest songs in the game. It's so funky. It has horns and percussion and bass elements of funk and breakdancing with some Chinese instruments, because Jamie is a vigilante fighter that protects the Chinatown of Metro City. And he's also has a connection to the characters Yun and Yang from Street Fighter 3. But because these are sort of dynamic tracks intended to be matching the action, I agree some of the music is a little bit confusing to listen to. And fans have been very mixed on it. That like some people think Street Fighter 6 has like the worst music in any main series game in the series. I think they're insane for thinking that. But I just wanted to highlight Street Fighter 6's music because I've listened to it so much. I mean, Blanca's theme is inspired by real Brazilian hip hop, and Ryu's theme is less intense and determined and more free and jazzy because it's representing Ryu as a character casting off the dark Hado that was haunting him for most of his career in the Street Fighter story. I think it's great. A lot of people dislike it, but I wanted to highlight the the dynamic music in Street Fighter 6, but also because it has an RPG mode, an open world where you gain levels and equip styles and level up skills and equip armor and all that great RPG stuff, that makes it, a borderline game we could cover. But I didn't have the time or inclination to review it or write a mini feature like I planned to at one point, close to when it came out. But yeah, I've talked about Street Fighter a lot, and thank you for the opportunity to do so. This song is funky and fresh as hell, and I am going to listen to it for many, many years to come.
It's really, just based on this song, it's hard to believe that that's the reception. I mean, I'm not in the fighting game scene, so and so I don't know. Like, again, as someone who doesn't play these a lot anymore, do other fighting games do that?
It has happened before. Not all of them do, and it's to very varying levels of success. This is the first time Street Fighter has done it this boldly. A lot of Street Fighter games will have the music speed up when one character's health gets low,
right? Yeah.
Or change in tone, but to have differences between rounds 1, 2, 3, intro, outro, and low health is pretty new for Street Fighter. It reminds me of, the first example I know of dynamic music of this level is in Skies of Arcadia, where the boss battle theme has a normal version, then a critical version if 2 or more characters have low health or are fallen, and then a victory version when when your characters are healthy and the enemy is critical health.
Yeah.
It's but if I can compare Street Fighter 6 to Skies of Arcadia, I really like the game.
Yeah, no kidding. No, I think it was fantastic. I guess I can see, like any other dynamic one, it would be maybe not. I don't know. I wouldn't think it's less listenable or anything as a soundtrack, but you wouldn't get the same effect. But I think that's just awesome. That seems like a really cool way of integrating music with the game. So
I don't know. I enjoyed I know it's not as intended in the game, but I still really, really, really enjoy listening.
I did too. It's so much fun.
I love the song. I'm just saying that all of the Street Fighter 6 songs, or at least the stage and character themes, are intended for for fighting game context.
Yeah.
And enhanced by that context. And sometimes, especially for the songs that maybe aren't as fun as Mr. Top Player, it's maybe a little bit of a confusing listen. But the reception in my perception of the reception is that it's very mixed. Some people love the SF6 music. Some fans are kind of mad about it. And whatever. I've made my stance clear.
Well, I appreciate you bringing it.
Yeah, that was the most fun.
I almost want to create a side project with you, Mr. Sollosi, on good fighting game music, because I'm actually secretly a huge fan of really good fighting game music, and I am also familiar with some parts of the fan base thinking that 6 doesn't have as strong a soundtrack as the others, and I'm also heavily disagreed with them and heavily agreed with you, and I like Jamie's theme a lot. I think it's one of the catchiest tracks on this OST. I'll just keep it at that.
Nice.
The Graham Norgate Killer Instinct soundtrack of the 2010s is the next one I want to direct you to, Patrick.
Yeah, I don't think I know that one. I'll have to check it out.
Oh boy. They used actual native instrumentation and language for the native characters track, and it is all right. Well, we'll talk after the episode.
I gotta check that out.
I'm so curious.
Awesome. Yeah, me too. Okay, I'm sure we're going to see a link soon.
As we should.
But until then, that brings us to you, Hilary.
Oh yay!
Are you nervous at this point?
I just hope everyone enjoyed my pigs.
I know I did, but we can't say that yet. You got to introduce them first.
That's true. Okay, so my picks, I think some of them will probably be expected. I tried to branch out at least a little bit with one of them. And they are, the first one is The Way I See, which is Andrew Jeremy from Coffee Talk 2, Hibiscus and Butterfly. And then Down by the River from Baldur's Gate 3. And last but not least, Lux Tizer from Seventh Saga, the Composer's Edition, which is why that game is here this year. It's because that edition released.
Right. The game is from what, 90 what? And this soundtrack came out last
92
year.
or 93.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's go listen and we'll be back.
So, I decided to start my set with a starting song, or at least an early song. No, I think this is menu music. Yes, in Hibiscus and Butterfly. But you do hear it more often than that, if I'm not mistaken. So, basically, Coffee Talk is very much what it sounds like. It's learning about people, conversations, bonding, in a coffee shop where you get to make coffee drinks. But it's an alternative version of Seattle where many of your patrons are mythical creatures. And Hibiscus and Butterfly, the two new characters, are a satyr and a banshee.
So good.
Yeah, it's really cute. And I feel like this theme just sets the tone amazingly well. And I wanted to pick at least one song that I felt did that very well for my music of the year. Just something where it encapsulates so much of what the game is. I am a sucker for this sort of like relaxing lo-fi kind of sound. So there's a Coffee Talk soundtrack that came out, so I had to bring it. But also I picked this because the specific composer and the specific music fits in the game and becomes part of the game, which is a lot of fun. Basically, your barista is a fan of Arami Gendru. Yeah. And you can pick, and this was actually in the first game too, in the little like music selector, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, because you could bring up your in-game cell phone
right,
and play any song from the Coffee Talk soundtrack by Arami Gendru.
Yes.
With album art.
Yep. And it was really cute. They ran with it in the second game. Not only is your barista a fan, but your musically inclined patron, who's a singer, was sort of at a crossroads in her career in the last game. In this game has grown up a bit and has decided she wants to be a little more creative. So she has chosen a surprising collaborator, and it's Arami Gendru. Yes. Which is a lot of fun. And actually, depending on what drink you serve her, you get a different track that she writes. Yeah, which is another like very cute, kind of limited, but it plays into what we've been talking about with like choices and kind of making music dynamic and getting different music under different circumstances. So a little different, but I wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, we didn't even know the extent of how many different songs there were until we got the soundtrack.
I think we picked this is the drink that reminds us the most of the character. This is what she's asking for. This is the closest.
Yep.
And you get a good song with that, but I think I like one of the other ones more.
Mm-hmm. No, I like this choice. I think you're right on. Like, having obviously played through the game with you, that this is a really solid choice to kind of represent the game as a whole. It really sets the tone for what you can expect from the game, musically, of course, but also just the vibe of the game and the conversations with the characters.
Yeah, and I mean the three alternatives with the drinks and the singer character, like those were all kind of in a subset of like close second choices.
Yeah.
But yeah, this one was just so recognizable to me and just instantly kind of had me get that cozy feeling that you want to get in a game like Coffee Talk.
Yeah.
I think cozy feeling is the way to describe like this whole set of music, right? I'm perpetually behind. I actually reviewed the soundtrack to the first Coffee Talk, I think early in 23, like right before the second game came out. And I was like, I'm going to review the second soundtrack. And I gave it one early listen, and I thought I want to play the game itself. And then I didn't get around to playing the game. And I am ashamed of myself. But then I got to listen to The Way I See again, thanks to you, Hilary.
Yay!
And now I'm like, maybe I can get back on that. Because, yes, this style of music is great. It's really great for the season that we're in right now in the Northern Hemisphere. Mm-hmm. I really like sort of winter vibes with coffee shops and stuff. And yeah, Andrew Jeremy is, he's an expert at his craft. He's an expert at what he does. Yeah, so, and I really want to play the game now because I want to experience these variant versions of the vocal track that can come out.
I think, just to sum things up, another reason why I like these soundtracks so much is because this is a type of music, it's easy to miss the mark and, make it just a little bit too repetitive or a little bit too jarring with like too many. It's really difficult to hit that middle ground where it's like relaxing but interesting and has the right feel. So I don't know.
Yeah, I think this is a genre that like anyone who makes music could make this kind of music, but to make it well actually takes a great deal of skill, probably a lot of practice, and just a certain intuition
and attention to detail.
Yeah, definitely attention to detail. If you want to make it well, that you better be, attention to detail is huge. Every parameter of how you do every little thing matters.
Right. And how you change those parameters as the song progresses.
Not unlike making a really good latte.
Exactly.
Anyone can dump the ingredients together, but can you make it good?
Right. Is the espresso perfect? Is the milk perfectly steamed?
Right. Well, if you want to play it, I would encourage it. I know, like, just a week ago, I was yelling at you, like, start Tears of the Kingdom, but Coffee Talk is much less of a commitment. So, what do we get, 12 hours?
Also, the new companion character from Neil, Amanda.
Oh my God.
Is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a bit less of a commitment than Monster Hunter as well, I would guess.
Yeah, probably a little bit.
Slightly less.
Well, unless anyone wants to add, we can get into something a little bit more epic and maybe a little bit more sinister, but possibly not, with Baldur's Gate 3. All right. So I got excited about Baldur's Gate 3. I decided it was something I wanted to play. Decided that for some reason I wanted my soundtrack to kind of be the introduction, other than my friend yelling, Misk and Boo are back. And I was struck by the soundtrack as a whole. There's a lot of really good stuff there. But in the end, I kept coming back to this song, which is a little funny because this is the exact song that was also performed at the Game Awards. But, I think there's a reason for that. This is beautiful vocal track. Love the vocalist. And it's actually, from what I understand, it was sort of meant to represent certain like early access or certain ideas that did not fully make their way into the final game, which is interesting. Like, it's a very, very pretty song. The lyrics are pretty like calm and serene. But if you think about that potential like early context, it's actually pretty sinister because, not to spoil too much, but you kind of have a parasite, and the song kind of could potentially represent the parasite, like presenting itself as positive and like trying to soothe you into complacence.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah. So it has a cool little sinister edge, and if you know it, the song hits quite differently. But it's also a good example of a very powerful musical motif, like those notes where she's singing the down, down, down by the river lyrics. That motif shows up in several other songs, including the credits.
Oh, okay.
So like you get a little bit of that same melody in the finale. You get that motif at several different points throughout the story, and it's woven in well. So I wanted to represent that.
I haven't actually mentioned this to you, but like you started playing it like a week or two ago or whenever, and like it's stuck in my head.
Yep.
I just keep hearing it. It's so good. And I'm like, sometimes I'm like, am I hearing in my head or is she playing it in the other room? And I'm not really sure. I think usually it's just in my head.
It's haunting,
I mean, if I'm going to be haunted by something, I want it to be a song like this. So I'm okay.
It haunts you like a mind parasite.
Yeah, exactly.
I have so much to say about this song. I'm going to try and keep it short. So first off, composer Borislav Slavov is not too prolific. Maybe worked on 7 games in the last 15 years. And he seems to hop on as a sequel person. He did Two Worlds 2, but not 1. He did Divinity Original Sin 2,
That's
but not 1.
Right, yep.
And now he's on for Baldur's Gate 3, but certainly not the original 2 from forever ago.
Right.
And I think the instrumental sort of BGM tracks, I mean, certainly they're not bad. The Baldur's Gate 3 soundtrack is solid, as is the whole game. but I do think he does one or two vocal themes on each game he's worked on, and I do think he's actually very, very good at doing vocal themes of in a lot of different ways with a lot of different concepts behind them. I think it was a bold choice to have a song title and lyrics Down by the River, because there's an old sort of American gospel association with that phrase, right? I'm going to lay down my burdens down by the riverside. Now, musically, melodically, it's not that at all, but thematically, you can kind of pick up on that and to say there's this parasite that might soothe you or help you get into complacence is a very subversive idea about whether or not the call of something that might be soothing, or maybe the call of divinity or God itself could actually be an unhealthy or parasitic thing, but it's going to sell itself as soothing. So there's a lot there.
If you really like dig into that gospel connection, that's an interesting read.
That is immediately where I went when I listened to it. And again, just like with the Toby Fox thing, I could be way overreading, but like that was the vibe I got. And I just feel like given the themes of the games Slavov has worked on, including this one, it just wouldn't surprise me if that was kind of part of what was going on here.
Well, and the way it's presented in this game too.
Yeah.
Yes.
There are many choices to make and like many ways you could read or like look at what's going on.
I was not ready for Pat to like psychoanalyze two of our songs today, but I'm really here for it just because it's just an interesting angle that I had not considered before.
Yeah, I hate to admit it, but I got to the point of, this is a famous old song title. I know it is. And I should figure out exactly what that connection is, because I know it's familiar, and then I just never quite got around to it. So I appreciate you bringing that to our full attention.
Yeah, I only know part of that gospel song because it was adapted into one of the songs in "Oh Brother Where Art Thou."
Oh
yes,
my god!
Yeah, it's one of the most important songs in "Oh Brother Where Art Thou."
Yeah, it's the baptism scene that I think is based on the Lotus Eaters scene from the Odyssey.
Oh yes,
because remember, "Oh Brother Where Art Thou" was the Odyssey and also the Wizard of Oz.
Yep.
But yeah, this song sounds like it could be like a traditional ballad of some of some European, maybe possibly Celtic origin, but the way that they use the motif, it's my understanding is that it's the character creation song.
Yep.
But then the song comes back in unexpected places.
Yep.
Maybe if you're struggling with the parasite in your brain, because I mean, in D&D terms, it's like you're infected by a mind flayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to turn you into another mind flayer, but basically giving this song such a sinister in-game context while being very beautiful on its own is so cool and subversive. And I really want to play Baldur's Gate 3. The problem is I have so much Like a Dragon and Monster Hunter on my plate that I don't know if I can find the time.
Yeah, I'm glad it was represented here though, because it's also on our list of like need to play. But for every so many people we talk to are like, yes, I'm still playing Baldur's Gate 3 and I can't stop playing Baldur's Gate 3. And I feel like we would be the same way. So it's like, I want to get started, but I know that once we do, it could be like Tears of the Kingdom again for me. So I'm cautious.
One could say we could get, lulled into just playing it forever.
That's true.
Well, I'm glad you enjoyed.
Yeah.
It was a good pick.
Thank you.
No doubt.
All right. So my last one, and I'm guessing Pat will definitely have some more commentary for us on this one because
so psyched about it.
It's extremely interesting what happened with this. So really, I picked the album on this one, Seventh Saga Soundtrack Composers Edition, before I picked the song. I just kind of said, I know I want the soundtrack represented, but I'll just pick a song I like from it, because this was basically the composer reworking the original soundtrack just so it could be released and enjoyed, because Seventh Saga, along with several other games from a similar generation, didn't have a soundtrack. And so the particular song I picked is a character theme, and it's been so long, I hate to admit it, but I could not quite match up which characters with their names. But I'm excited because I ended up picking the mysterious robot from the future.
Nice.
Which is always great. But the soundtrack is just a cool mix of character themes and battle themes, and they're all done extraordinarily well. And Seventh Saga to me has always had a pretty distinctive sound among, Super Nintendo RPGs. So I'm always excited to bring it on, and not just the cello version that I brought on before.
I mean, that one was fantastic too. But I'm glad you did. I mean, it's just not to rehash what you said too much, but just the fact that this finally got a soundtrack, an album release, like you would never think it would even happen.
Yeah, and that it's available both physical and digital.
Right.
Yes.
They could have just been like, here it is on Spotify, but they're like, no, if you want a CD, like, we got it.
Yeah, they did the full Bandcamp thing.
Mm-hmm.
I got the physical version. I'm very, very happy.
It's a very bare bones arrangement of this song, because I've played the Seventh Saga more than, oh boy, most other people that I know. But this is the song exactly as it is in game, but with some of the musical soundscape is definitely more than what could have been done on the Super Nintendo hardware.
Mm-hmm.
Like just how rich those the bass and the percussion are. Like, I don't know if it's a woodblock or claves or whatever, but you can't get a nice echoing woody percussive sound on a Super Nintendo of that quality. But the tones that carry the melody and the counter melody basically sound exactly like they did on the Super Nintendo.
Very Super Nintendo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's like it's this weird in between sound that's like it's half it is like it's like bleeps and bloops video game music, but then it sort of crosses over and uses some sounds that are definitely recorded live or with very modern sophisticated hardware. And this is the comparison that people use for like Octopath Traveler or HD2D games. This game looks like you imagined the old Super Nintendo games to look like. Like, this is like my memory of what the Seventh Saga sounds like, but it's actually better and more sophisticated than the truth.
I love that. Yeah. I mean, a lot of those original soundtracks had to perform kind of some like slightly jazzy wizardry of like implying like certain sounds or like certain tones or things that so that you could kind of picture them without them fully being expressed because of the limitations of the hardware.
Yeah, I always like that, whether it's visually or musically or whatever. Like the Mario RPG remake is another good example of that, where like sometimes I go back and listen to compare, because like some of it's just like, well, this is what I remember it sounded like before, and it isn't always, but it's really cool. I like when that happens.
My favorite version of this is a very strange example, but when they did a full remake including voice acting of the DuckTales NES game,
DuckTales Remastered.
Yeah, DuckTales Remastered like 10 or 15 years ago. The opening theme is the exact 8-bit bleeps and bloops of the original game, but then after maybe 2 or 3 measures, they bring in modern horns and modern percussion, and then it continues with the sort of 8-bit melody, still very bright and video gamey, but backed by a chamber orchestra.
That's so good.
It's like when they incorporate like video game bleeps and bloops with full orchestra or modern hardware. You just love to see it, and this is what this is. This is a full remastering that toes the line between a modern soundtrack and a 1990s soundtrack, and keeps the exact spirit of what a Super Nintendo game sounded like, for a very unique niche game,
right?
That doesn't look or sound like any other of its ilk. Like, I mean, how many other Super Nintendo RPGs had a mini map with visible enemies, as well as a pretty robust character choice that has impact throughout the game? man, I wish the Seventh Saga was a bit more playable, because sometimes it is borderline impossible. But
right, there are situations where, like, depending on which characters you face off against in what order, like some of them like border on impossible to beat and you have to restart the game.
It depends on the character matchup and also what level you're at, because the thing is your other rival characters increase in stats at a faster rate than you do. So if you over level too much, some fights are borderline impossible.
Right, you can lock yourself out by you think you're grinding and it's a bad idea.
Right, I was gonna say they're like, you think you'll solve this by grinding? Nope.
Right.
No, you the only time grinding really makes sense is at near the very, very end of the game, when you don't have any more rival battles to fight. But the end game equipment is so expensive that I still couldn't buy everything after 8 hours of grinding while holding down the tilde button on my emulator to make it go at double speed.
And that's just in the English version, right? Wasn't that the problem? Is that they broke something during localization in that scaling?
Yes. It's I think it's only the experience and stat scaling that was busted in the English localization, but that's still hugely impactful.
I am so glad that you brought this one, Hilary. I love, I keep a running mental list of old games that never had soundtracks properly published, and this has sort of been like a holy grail on the list for a very long time. It's from the same studio and same devs within Enix who made this game called Mystic Arc for the Super Nintendo that was Japanese only, but has like really good art, really good soundtrack.
It was supposed to be a sequel, or was
it was supposed to be a sequel about Lemille, the king at the beginning of the Seventh Saga, who also features into the ending of the Seventh Saga. Spoilers for a game that's almost 30 years old.
It's sort of loosely connected. But Seventh Saga, which I think it was called Elnard in Japan, is really a unique experience, and the music is very primitive. I think the approach that the composer Norihiko Yamanouchi took with this is very similar to one that Hiroki Kikuta did when he released this sort of arrange, sort of not arrange album called Secret of Mana Genesis back in I think it was like 2008 or maybe like 2011, 2012, where the whole thing was, here's how it would sound if someone asked me to make the soundtrack today. It's essentially MIDIs, it's sequenced, but I don't have to worry about the compression of the Super Famicom. And I think that might be what Yamanouchi did. Like, he might have had old stems of his MIDI files and worked them with like modern sound sourcing instead of.
I think that's specifically mentioned. Like, if you look at the Bandcamp, that he used some of that.
I think that was the approach, and that's probably partially because if he tried to recreate it, or even specifically just record the game audio, I suspect there's like some copyright crap with Enix, but that's why it's the composer's edition. I think that's why he's able to release it in this form, and I'm just really glad he did.
So this is Elnard Taylor's version.
That's exactly right. You're getting away. You avoid the copyright of the recording and the recording engineer by doing it yourself in a slightly different way.
I am so glad we made that
Taylor's
comparison.
version. This is Norihiko's version of Seventh Saga. So, and a few other people have done this. There's another one that I was looking at for an RPG that got a localization started, but then was dropped for Super Nintendo, and it's a really cool RPG that it's an action RPG that kind of plays like Zelda, it's French, Neugier, Neugier, and so like that came out on CD and vinyl.
Wait, Nieger?
Neugier?
Neugier? Oh,
I think that's right. Yeah. And so, they came out in Japan in like 92 and then was almost going to make it to America. And then I think it could have been like a censorship thing with NOA. Remember how Nintendo of America didn't like religious themes or anything even close to sexual in their early 90s games. So that might have been it. I can't remember for that game if it was religious or if it had to do with sensual themes or if it was both. But really good music. And so I'm always looking for this kind of stuff. And part of me had given up. I didn't think we were ever going to see a soundtrack for Seventh Saga. And so I'm just extremely grateful, like just as a preservationist and archivist, that this soundtrack was published.
Yeah, I mean, for every like Koshiro, who's able to release stuff with different names or like subvert some of these things, there are so many other games that just are stuck.
Right.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly.
So I was elated about this one.
I mean, you and I have talked about that a bunch with like Illusion of Gaia.
Yeah. Actually,
and Soul Blazer, right? Did Soul Blazer get a soundtrack? I don't think it did.
Soul Blazer has a soundtrack. You will spend hundreds of dollars if you want it. Soul Blazer and Terra Nigma have it, but Illusion of Gaia, they just, for whatever reason, didn't publish one. Maybe that's what we'll see in 24. Because that's another one locked down by Enix.
Well, maybe.
Square Enix now.
Maybe.
I think someone within Enix would have to be the rights holder.
Yeah, I mean, you would think, but I never know what those like those and Shadow Hearts are kind of weird.
It's hard to say. Yeah. It's hard to say with Quintet when the studio folded what happened to the rights of their music. I don't know.
Well, yeah, with the owner or the CEO or whatever that like just vanished. Every few years, I look up the Wikipedia page, and it's like you'll see a quote. It's like, oh, I don't know, he just kind of disappeared one day. It's like, what the hell happened there?
That's insane.
I know.
It's its whole story.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All right. Well, there we go. That was our music of the year. Let's see. Housekeeping time. So we have several games that made their debut on Rhythm Encounter with this episode. First off, we have Baldur's Gate 3, Dave the Diver, Final Fantasy 16 of all things, and not to spoil our bonus track, but Grand Blue Fantasy versus Rising, Meg's Monster, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Slay the Princess, and I don't know if it will come back one day, but Street Fighter 6. All right. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, and I hope you did, because I know I did, coming up next, we have some other stuff to look forward to, and we're doing the compilation of Final Fantasy VII episode on Rhythm Encounter. So basically anything in the Final Fantasy VII series / universe is up for grabs in that one. So I'm looking forward to doing that. And then after that, we're doing an episode called Level 1, or at least something along those lines. Basically early game RPG music, like starting areas, starting town, that kind of thing. So I think that should be interesting as well. So if you have thoughts on this episode, you can reach the show and me at music@rpgfan.com. If you want to reach any of our hosts, how can people reach you, Hilary? What's the best way?
Email, and that's hilary@rpgfan.com.
Okay. And Sollosi?
Probably either Instagram or Blue Sky, on both of which I am at Evoker for Dogs.
Nice. And Pat?
Email's the best way, pgan@rpgfan. I'm also active on the site that I still call Twitter. Handle is @gameadactyl. That's the word game, the letter O, and dactyl. Good luck.
Thank you. And along with Rhythm Encounter, RPG Fan also has two other podcasts, Random Encounter and Retro Encounter. So Random Encounter is our podcast about, current stuff on the website, news, reviews, features. So we're recording this far enough in advance. I actually can't tell you what's on Random Encounter, but I'll just tell you to go check it out. They post every other Monday. Retro Encounter posts every week. Retro Encounter recently finished their game journal on Moon, which I'm very excited to listen to and play. And even more exciting than that is you guys just did your episode 400, which is just a huge, huge milestone. So, but Sollosi's here, so I'm actually going to let you talk about Retro Encounter for a minute.
Sure. Unlike Random Encounter, we plan things out way far in advance. So, we have the next month or so planned out. We're doing an episode on unpopular RPG opinions, an episode that's a new fantasy draft episode. That's too difficult to explain in this small amount of time. And one episode about Kazuma Kiryu from the Like a Dragon series, and then 2 episodes about Dragon Quest XI, Echoes of an Elusive Age. This is the only February of my entire lifetime that has 5 Thursdays in it.
I mean, that's a great lineup, though. It's almost like there's a theme going on there.
Yeah, the Lunar New Year of the Dragon begins on something like February 9th or 10th. So starting in mid-February, we're going to have, I think, 5 or 6 dragon-themed episodes in a row.
Yeah,
Excellent.
That's awesome. I love that you're doing that.
When I hear you say Lunar and Dragon, I'm like, hey, maybe you do an episode on Lunar Dragon Song.
No.
The worst of the Lunar games.
You know, we posted all those retro reviews of Lunar, and you know which one was not included in there?
I noticed.
Yes.
Lunar Magic School.
That also wasn't there.
No. Okay. Well, you can also follow RPG Fan on social media. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Threads, the site formerly known as Twitter. We're also on Twitch and YouTube and Discord. So you'll find links to that stuff in our show notes and, of course, on our website. I don't actually know what happened with my notes here because there should have been something about the shop. RPG Fan also has a shop. Well, technically, we have 2 shops right now. So if you go to rpgfan.com/shop, you can get to our merch shop that we've had for a few years. You can get t-shirts and mugs and stuff like that. But you can also check out our review card collection book. It's a 300-page printed book of our review cards that we post on Instagram. It's really exciting. I know that
coolest coffee table book you can have.
Yeah.
I just love paging through it.
I know all the staff that has them has been really enjoying it. We actually got an email from a fan a couple days ago, just saying that they're looking forward to volume 2, which will happen one day. But I'm really happy that how it turned out and that people are enjoying it. So yeah, again, you can check that out at rpgfan.com/shop. If you enjoy the show, you can review us on Apple Podcasts and not Google Podcasts anymore. YouTube, wherever you listen, if you want to leave us a review, subscribe, whatever, we would appreciate that. So closing out today, we have one more bonus track from Derek Heemsbergen, the other founder of Rhythm Encounter. So Derek has definitely been on a big Granblue Fantasy kick lately, maybe fueled by Relink coming out soon. But Derek wanted us to play the main theme from the new fighting game in the series, Granblue Fantasy versus Rising. And he sent me a little bit here to read. So I'm gonna read Derek's thing here, and then we'll cut over the music. So Derek said, "We gorged on quality games throughout 2023. At the tail end of the year came a final digestive, one not squarely in the RPG camp, but straddling it with foot firmly planted and hand on hilt. Competitive fighter Granblue Fantasy vs. Rising pulls from a well of lore 10 years deep, and its waters are as cool as the skies are blue." Boy, Derek's a good writer, huh? The browser-based gacha from which it stems is a tough sell in 2024, but Versus Rising has nonetheless inspired me to dig into an absurdly far-reaching world of fantasy that has seized my attention for weeks and refused to let go. Boot up the game and you'll be greeted by its rousing main theme, which I've selected for you to hear today. May it whisk you away to the cerulean skies of adventure. All right, so we're going to close out with the main theme from Granblue Fantasy versus Rising. All of you, thank you for being here and making this episode so much fun. I enjoyed talking to all of you and hearing everyone's picks, and thank you everyone for listening as well.
Thank you. I'm expecting those cerulean skies of adventure, Derek.
I'm sure we'll get it. So now we got to go work on our written feature for Music of the Year. So let's go do that. Let's go finish that tonight.
I don't know about that. I have 5 more podcasts to record this week.
Okay. Maybe tomorrow then. But again, thank you everyone, and we'll see you next time.
Take care.
Bye.
Ryu's is great. Ryu's is like, wow, why is Ryo getting like a funky horn section?
I know.
But it's like, oh, it's because he feels free for the first time in his life.
Aww.
And he doesn't have the evil Ryu, Kage Ryu, like Dark Hado haunting him because he couldn't beat Akuma. Now he's cast that away, and he's an older, gentler Ryu.
He kind of reminds it's kind of a similar vibe to like Phoenix Wright in the second trilogy, where he's not the star. He's sort of like chilling out and the mentor, but wants to make sure everything's still okay.
Yeah, but it's a little weird. He kind of reverts to old Phoenix in the 5th and 6th games.
Yeah, he does.
But hobo chill Phoenix in Ace Attorney 4 is very entertaining. I'm sort of, but then like when you start controlling him in the other ones, it's like, oh well, this is the extremely anxious, high strung Phoenix we're used to.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. Yeah.